he's done.
Are you going on the bus to Millinocket to see the solar eclipse?
No, that's Miss Templeton. Sherry Templeton, the science teacher at the high school that left for 7 years and came back. She's going with her kids up there.
I thought they were taking everybody in the school. School bus.
On the school bus. I have down cheering it when I used to coach, we went all over the place. And it's a long drive.
The bus at the time, that was way too long.
We went up to whitewater rafting up in the forest with this, it's not that much.
I did a 9-hour bus ride in and out of Denali on a school bus. And,
Yeah, they have no shocks, it's like.
nothing, and oh, there's Longhorn Sheep, and there's this, and there's that. Eventually, you stop and you get out and they give you a box lunch, and then you
Yeah.
get right back on the school bus.
They go in there, yeah.
9 hours of unbelievable scenery, but a lot of rocks and bumps on those
Yeah.
roads that aren't paved.
I spent a lot of time in school buses. 35 years this year, and so I put in for my retirement for June, which is a big deal. I did-
Congratulations.
It's a bittersweet thing because I've got to find something to do now. You know?
Well, now you're back as a consultant, that means you get paid.
Exactly.
Or you go over your own food pantry. I mean, look what happens when you send
I know, people all of a sudden think you can do a lot of things, but I do a lot of things now, but it's just,
All right.
I like.
Yeah, I just told the president about it.
Kids
Oh, listen,
keep
if you
young.
think you're gonna apply for it, that's gonna disappear. It's gonna be.
You're just gonna say, how did I do all of this and work? I don't understand how I do all of this
I know,
before
I
and
know.
work.
And works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Building my addition on the house, I did work all day, start that at 7, 8 o'clock at night, work, but I don't do that anymore.
I don't think you have the energy anymore.
Oh, I gave them away when Jeopardy's comes on. Somebody thinks it's spring, look at that, I have a coat.
Sherry down there. Oh, let me think about that. Yeah.
One of this year computer.
We were just talking about the food thing, remember how much you helped us with that, the food, thing for Channel 13? You did it twice. The first time you won, but I remember you were a big part of that, it was really fun.
Listen, did lots of things over the years.
Yeah.
Alright. It is 7
Good
o'clock.
memories, good
And a board
memories.
meeting president calling the March 11th meeting of the Wisconsin Planning Board to order. Our first order of business tonight is a public hearing for the proposed changes to the following town of Wisconsin ordinances. Article 10, miscellaneous section 4 of the floodplain ordinance. Article 10, miscellaneous section 7, recreational vehicles, and glossary definition of a recreational vehicle. And we would like to summarize the changes.
For the public audience that's here.
The ORC was asked by the town manager to take a look at ordinances that pertain to recreational vehicles and the definition of temporary, as associated with recreational vehicles, because we had 3 different definitions for it. So we have changed Article 10 miscellaneous section 4 of the floodplain ordinance to, which originally had considered temporary 180 consecutive days. We have changed that to 120 consecutive days so that the floodplain ordinance is consistent with the shoreline zoning ordinance, which had 120 days. When we made that change, we also changed Article 10 miscellaneous section 7 recreational vehicles, because we had only in there the word temporary, but did not define what temporary meant. So we replaced that with no more than 120 consecutive days, describing how long RVs may stay on private property, so that we now have, under these proposed changes, the shoreline zoning, the recreational vehicle ordinance, and the floodplain ordinance all having the same definition and type when we're describing temporary. And then the final change that was made was to the definition of recreational vehicles, because we also had that, having had varying definitions as well. So we changed the town's definition to match the definition that's in the floodplain ordinance. And you can see that change has been proposed as part of these changes. So they're all pretty minor, it's just some more housekeeping type changes, to make them more consistent.
Thank you, Emily. Any questions from the general audience? No? I don't see anybody online. One participant. Us.
Yeah.
We technically we counted it as a person online. Yeah, all right. Any questions or comments from planning board?
Yes. Okay, Bobby, what is the driver to go to 120 days?
So
Or 100 days?
So the driver was that the shoreline zone was 120, floodplain was 180. Both are state required. The difference being that we can more easily change the floodplain ordinance. We cannot change shoreline zoning. So shoreline would have to stay, if we couldn't change it from 120 to 180. We had to keep shoreline at 120. So to make that consistent through the other ordinances, we reduced 180 to 120 in a floodplain.
And we did ask the if he could change the shoreline.
Yes.
No.
So just to be consistent.
Right.
Yes.
Between what we were.
So it's also.
So, but there is no enforcement arm with this, right? There's no way to enforce it, there's no penalty, there's nothing.
So
that reads.
The enforcement comes from our code officer. And that's why this came about to begin with, because we had, if you're in a flood zone, it was 180 days. If you were in the shoreland zone, it was 120. If you overlapped, there was confusion, like if your property is both in the flood zone and the shoreland, which is most properties, there's confusion because it's two different dates. And then for our general recreational vehicle ordinance, which is anywhere in town that's outside shoreland zoning and a floodplain, we only had the term temporary, but nothing to actually a time frame. So it was a very discretionary interpretation. So the town, in order to enforce this better, asked for this consistency change, so that they can enforce. And if you've been there for longer than 120 days, they'll ask, I'm assuming, for removal. I'm not the code enforcement officer, so I can't.
I know people that do the 6 month thing, so this was. I guess I can pick up for a day and then go back.
Right.
Mhm.
You just move it.
Because it's consecutive, yes.
So there's something in mind. That's what
Go for
I'm.
it.
Doesn't count. Next year house, so. And that's, that was 2003.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
The thing that Peter talked about was enforcing ordinances. And I know from a barking dog ordinance that I had running with someone who's no longer with us, but that's neither here nor there. But there really isn't an enforcement by the code enforcement officer. So how do you go to the police station and have it enforced by the police? Who does enforce the ordinances? Because I found that nobody did. I don't know if that legally is done that, you know, how do you,
Yeah,
are they guidelines mostly, ordinances?
well, there are requirements. Yeah, so they are requirements, and so it is up to the code enforcement officer to enforce them. When it comes to the barking dog, I don't know whether that would fall under, police non-emergency type call versus code enforcement officer. But for something like this, I would anticipate that it would go through code
Go to the
enforcement.
code officer. Code officer goes so far.
Yeah, and then
Yes,
what
it's a
does
letter.
he do?
If it doesn't happen, then he needs to go back, he goes back to the select board and they start legal action.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good, Peter, because I was thinking the same thing too, but who
I know it's
enforces?
something, so.
Because it's really not a police matter at that point.
Yeah.
So.
I make a motion we approve as presented.
Also,
Second,
yes.
okay,
Yes.
any further discussion?
No, it would come out of the public hearing.
True, oh, the hearing ended,
Okay, well, let me give minutes, so.
we'll get to those. We're taking them out of order. Thank you. Of course, that's right through, we already made a motion. All those in favor of the motion, forward. Okay. Now, I'll call the meeting to order. The approval, the first item is there, now second one is the approval of the minutes of the February 26th meeting.
Motion of approval. As written.
Second.
First and second, comments, corrections? All those in favor of accepting the printed? Unanimous of those present and voting. Novell Energy Solutions finding of fact and conclusion to law of site plan application for solar array at 277 Gardner Road, tax map R6, lot 10B. Basically, you are authorizing me to sign on behalf of the planning board. They still have to produce a plan, which we haven't done, that we all get to sign. But this is the only the chairman usually signs the findings of facts and conclusions of law. I was the one to sign it, so just, I have no other.
And I have the one for you to sign, but not to, at least for scan.
Take a few minutes to go over it.
So it really worked.
I have 227.
Can't get on my computer and work onto this website, sites and all that,
Oh,
so
really?
I do it on my phone.
You can't.
I'm on my phone, but not on my computer.
Oh, that's fine.
So,
You think they
consider
don't?
that a team. So not so slow.
The firewall.
They want them to work, they want them to work. We need a motion to accept this. Make a motion, we accept this pending the delivery of the final plans.
Any other comments, questions? All those in favor? Unanimous of those present and voting. Well, no, we have a public hearing on the Affordable Housing Act as it relates to changes in the statute. It passed by 6 or 7 votes. And I've already had a first inquiry. Which I have not answered.
Oh, I have to get back to them.
Oh, so.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, historic work, for what it is. All right, does anybody have any other business? I do not.
I'd like to make my favorite motion that it's 7:09 PM, we adjourn.
I'll second. I beat you this
No, I let you.
time.
I love that one. I just want to thank Ellen for all.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
So good.
Thank you, Emily, from all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,